So your car all of a sudden got loud. Not engine, not really just parked while you're driving. All of a sudden the car has a lot of noise. And most people, the first thing that comes to their mind where their car is loud is to add more insulation. Look at wheel bearings. Let's look at what's going on with the suspension. And this is a case that we have here. This is a beautiful 2014 Toyota Avalon. Very well cared for. Potentially you see it in the video, doesn't look like it was well cared for. We are in the middle of winter here in Chicago, so things are salty. It's impossible to keep cars clean, but this is truly a really good car in good shape. The owner of this car loves this car, wants to keep it for a long time. However, he does have concerns with noise and ride quality, which we're going to address in this video because I see the same pattern of mistakes that people make, which ends up causing them to spend more money and not achieve the results that they're looking into. Let's get started. You need to think about a few things when your car becomes loud, as in high road noise. You drive it, it's not quiet like it used to be, or there's a car you recently acquired, it's just loud. The first thing is, what kind of noise do you have? Do you have road noise, or do you have whistling noises or wind noise? And this is very important that you distinguish what do you have. And this is the first thing you're going to tell when you test drive the car. One of the biggest and most important things that people usually skip are tires, like in this Avalon. Let's put this Avalon up in the air. Let's talk about the tires real quick and how they are affecting the ride quality of this Avalon. So the first thing I see is this car has the incorrect size, 235/45/18. Now, people will try to put a bigger tire in an attempt to get a quieter ride, but this actually becomes counterproductive very quickly. Most people don't realize this. With my conversation with the owner, I can see it in his eyes. He did not think about the whole picture, or perhaps he didn't know about it. So I felt, let's make this video, let's talk about it, because there's many people potentially that don't know about this. When they design car suspensions, they don't just come up with a random size and let's go. Suspension is designed in a way to work, and the tire is the most important part of the suspension. And actually, this is where your car contacts the road. It is one of the most overlooked, underrated, important things when it comes to handling, ride quality, and just overall behavior of the suspension. When you put larger tires, most people's concern is it gonna rub on the sides? That is irrelevant. You're gonna change the geometry of your suspension. Just as simple as that. The bigger the tire, the taller the tire, rather, the more load you're gonna put on your wheel bearings and potentially wear them out earlier. That's the first thing. The second thing is, your angles will change. Toyota has some of the simplest alignments in the world. And let's raise this car up and I'll show you what most Toyota does not really allow much adjustability with their suspension. And that's by design, because they're designed to last, not really designed to have you have infinite customization and adjustability. The first alignment angle is your toe. This is the one that you can easily adjust. And this is pretty much every single car. Possibly 90% of Toyotas have adjustability in the front and the rear of some sort. If you have a beam suspension in the back, there's no adjustability. If it's out, something is bent. But if we look here, here's our tie rod. Loosen this, turn the inner part, you change your toe. And for those who are not familiar with what toe is, the toe is how straight is your tire? Are you pushing it in or are you pushing it out? Which direction is your tire sitting at when your steering wheel is straight? Toe changes as you turn the wheel, and that's by design. The other adjustability is camber. Camber is how your wheel is sitting this way. So if you camber in, your top of the wheel will come in. If you camber out, your top of the wheel will come out. Toyota has minimal adjustability in the fronts only. Majority of models, people don't realize this, they think the back also is adjustable. So the bolts that hold the strut, they actually are smaller than the hole they sit in. So if you loosen them and move the wheel, then tighten them, that gives you very minimal adjustability. And then caster. Caster is difficult to explain in simple terms, but it's basically how your axes are aligned. The top mount and the wheel, how aligned are they? Toyota has very non-aggressive caster. Caster does have issues. You go into some of the German cars, they have aggressive caster, and then they have a tendency of following ruts and things like that in the road, like any break in the road, they'll follow it. That's a downside of excessive caster. But a positive side is they have a very good on-center feel, and the less caster you have, the more it'll be all over the place. Toyotas, they don't handle the best in the world, so they usually have very minimal caster. Folks, caster is non-adjustable in 90% of Toyotas. Anything front-wheel drive, it's not adjustable. If caster is out, something is bent, and something from experience. If camber is out and you cannot adjust it, if it's out by a lot, something is bent. Most people start changing the bolt and grinding it and doing something is bent that needs to be corrected because the adjustability is minimal. It's very small window of adjustability. That's the first thing. Now here's what happens when you put bigger tires. Your camber potentially will go out. Well, you can adjust that. Your toe maybe will be minimally out. Well, you can adjust that. What about your caster? You cannot adjust that. Now, some people will say, well, that doesn't change caster. I understand. But what about when you're driving? You have a bigger tire, taller tire, you change the ride height. Things have changed. Ride height is very important to your alignment. When you change tires, you change the suspension travel limits. Things change. And as a result, look, things will not be dangerous or bad, but here's what you're going to happen. You're going to have abnormal behavior of suspension. The first one is the tires will start getting chewed up. And the owner of this car, this is their problem. They have severely chopped tires. Now these tires are rotated on time, taken care of, always good pressure. They are Pirellis, good tires, but heavily chopped. Avalons are not known to chop tires. I know this is technically a smaller tire, big wheel, 18-inch, but they're not known to do this. They're not aggressive cars. This is not a car you're driving aggressively. This is kind of a comfort cruiser. Well, the tires are heavily chopped, and that's why we have noise. But the reason they are heavily chopped is because they're the incorrect size. Usually Toyota, when they put their bigger size wheel and their smaller size wheel, the bigger size wheel is on the upper limit of where the suspension is kind of designed to work. When you go on the lower side, that's the lowest. So always remain between. If you feel like you have a big wheel, two small tires, and it's too rough, go to the smaller wheel of the same model. Don't just pick a random wheel size and tire. Go look at the lower trims, like for example the Avalon. There's an 18-inch wheel. They do have a model with 17-inch wheels. Go to that 17-inch wheel, get the same size tire. Don't start putting a bigger tire. If you don't want to compromise on other things, can you do it? Yes. Is it a good idea? No. That's as simple as that. And this is one of the #1 causes for road noise. Tires. People look over them. They don't think about it. This is where you're contacting the road. When you buy a used car, I always say this. I wish you always buy a used car that has bad tires and bad brakes. As soon as you buy it, put new tires, put new brakes. Now you chose what tires you put, what brakes you put, and you're done. You don't have to think about it. Tires make a huge difference on your ride. Keep that in mind. Don't just go oversizing or undersizing. Take your time and think this through. Let's talk about the other kind of road noise that people also encounter in their cars, which is wind noise. Wind noise can be super annoying. I am one of those people that I don't care if the car is loud itself, engine is loud, road noise is loud, but no whistling from wind noise. That would just make me stop. We have to fix it. Wind noise usually is difficult to diagnose, but I'm going to share with you a tip that makes this diagnosis of wind noise relatively DIY and simple. Time consuming, yes, but simple. So the major things that cause wind noise are windows and doors, usually more windows than doors. Windows, they're moving up and down, seals around them wear out. Doors, they're slammed, they're mishandled, they get bent, and that's how you have wind noise. But the number one cause of wind noise for Toyota, actually two tied up for number one, is windshields and sunroofs. See, if your windshield is original, there's a very lower chance that you will have wind noise from it. But if you bought this car used and you look at the corner of the glass, it says Toyota. Well, what if this is a replacement original? You don't know that. There's no really way to know unless you look in the history, or you start looking for signs of intrusion. The easiest way to do wind noise diagnosis is painter's tape. You're gonna look at the edge of the glass. If you suspect the noise is from the windshield, you're gonna start by taping around the windshield all the way across. Go drive the car. If you still hear the noise, guess what? That is not your issue. You have something else that's causing the whistling. But if it goes away, don't stop there and say it's a windshield. You gotta clarify exactly where, because you might see something else. Take one of the strips out and go drive. Then take the second one until the noise comes back. You know exactly where it is. And then put half a strip and go drive. This is how you localize the noise. Because if you all of a sudden, and I've seen this before, you have a noise in this area. If you tape this, the noise changes or goes away. And then you see a rock chip and rust forming here. Well, this is actually not the glass itself that caused the leak. It's actually the rust that built up and pushed the seal up. When you have windshield air leak, it's a giant red flag, because if air can get in, guess what else can get in? Water. Then you immediately need to start looking into water leaks, because windshields leak water and they could really damage cars. The second most common thing that whistles in Toyotas are sunroofs, if you have one. So this seal around the sunroof is designed to slow down water. It is a controlled leak, believe it or not. Most people think this seal actually seals water from getting in. It will get in. It will drip in very slowly, and that's why you have the sunroof drains that take the water out. But if they gush in, it's not going to be able to keep up. It's going to leak inside. Very easy to diagnose these. If you have a shade, you notice that you close the shade, the noise is less. You open the shade, it gets a lot louder. The seal around it wears out, you replace it, and that's that. Or the alignment of the glass, up, down. If the glass is sticking up too high or too low, you're gonna get a whistling sound, because now it's not seated enough where it seals enough of the air so it wouldn't whistle. Then we move to other things. And again, you tape this around, the noise should go away completely. This is much easier than the windshield. But then we go into stuff like doors. Doors can be tricky, because you want to identify, is your noise from the door shell or is it from the glass itself? So here's what you do. You tape the inside of the glass, not the outside of the door, where you can still open the door. Tape the inside of the glass and go drive it. If it doesn't go away, peel it off, tape the door to the body and go drive it. Eventually you'll find it and life is good. Either a door seal or a glass seal or something simple. These typically do not cause water leaks or big ones that are alarming. There's nothing really usually behind doors, and they do have water that goes in them and goes out, so it's not a large alarm. But the other one that can be tricky and common to whistle are the mirrors. See, the mirrors, we used to have closed mirrors before in the past. Never whistle, never hear noises, life's good. But the problem with these mirrors, and when Toyota started to kind of care more about aerodynamic stuff, we have this channel that is open. You notice in the newer car, like my Camry right here, the mirror is no longer here. It's actually on the door itself. And this was not just a change because I will share with you something. This is one of the worst designs and worst ideas ever, to have a wind channel right next to the glass and you're trying to avoid wind noise. I mean, this will whistle. You're driving your car, you have this style mirror, crack your window open. You're gonna hear all kinds of noise because noise is being channeled right here, right next. This is the weakest point of the door when it comes to noise and wind. And we have this giant channel. Fold your mirror and you will notice a huge difference in the noise. If you notice noise around the mirror area, you're gonna first tape around the mirror. If it doesn't go away, and this is where things get interesting. Eros, if you come around, I'll show them something on the mirror itself. You're gonna tape the joint and around, because if the joint is loose and you have a giant opening here, this will be like an air whistle. It will start whistling like you would not believe. You just put a piece of tape right here, it'll stop whistling. If that is the case, you potentially need a new mirror. That's unfortunate how things are. That's why they moved away from this design to this design, which still is not the best, but it still gives you a little bit. Now air will channel lower, not just kind of going in this weak area of where the glass is and you have a seal. It goes against the body. Makes a huge difference. Folks, when it comes to noise, don't immediately assume we have suspension problems, we have wheel bearing, we have all this. Cover the basics. Do your tires have strange edge wear? Do you have a wind noise or do you have road noise? Because if you have road noise, tires need to be the first thing you check. Then wheel bearings, then everything else. If you have a wind noise, you need to localize it. It is much easier, and I tell this to my customers all the time. Do you want to pay me to do this and keep driving the car back and forth? Or do you want to do it yourself? I mean, this doesn't really require any skills. Find which door, at least, or panel is making the noise, and I'll take it from there. That way, I'm not charging you the time to go back and forth, tape this, tape that. Anybody can do this. Doesn't really require any skills. I see more wind noise than road noise in Toyotas. That's just the reality, especially after accidents. Body shops don't have a habit of fixing the car and then going driving it on the highway for 2 hours to make sure there's not even the tiniest wind noise. It's gonna happen, folks. But you now know how to basic diagnose wind noise. It is super time consuming. It's a patient game, but you need to be accurate about your taping and where you're taping, kind of have an action plan, which I hope this video now helps you kind of have a roadmap of how you're going to attack this and how you're going to take care of it. And hopefully all your Toyotas and other cars are quiet and comfortable. You don't have those annoying wind noises. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. And until the next video, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.